Hi, I'm Oliver the Ricketts, and this is the Goddamnit Hello podcast. On this week's show, we're joined by Colin Cassidy, aka Colin4Torch. Colin is an 18-year-old aspiring actor who's been recognized across the internet for different sketches and pieces that he's put up. He's also been an extra in several major films. However, his biggest claim to fame is his Instagram page, Colin4Torch. On it, he campaigns to be the next Human Torch in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The page has garnered thousands of followers and he has a strong support system. And we're here to ask, is this campaign legit? Let's find out. Hi everybody, welcome. This is another episode of that show that I don't want to say the title of until it's time to say the title. Jeremy yelled at me last week for saying the title right off the bat.
No, it's because when we started the podcast, we said that sometimes we would do a cold open instead of just yelling, "God damn it," at the beginning of each episode. And yet,
I think that's the best way to do the show.
The second Oliver learns that a microphone and a camera is on, he goes, "God damn it," and there's nothing you can do about it.
As soon as you show it, I'm ready, and I do a podcast. But we have a guest today, Colin4Torch, who we're going to introduce in a little bit. But I wanted to explain beforehand that the show usually starts by yelling "God damn it, hello," which is the title of the show. However, apparently now that's not what we're doing. Thanks, Jeremy.
We could do a different thing. It doesn't have to be the same each time. Why do we have to do this on mic?
Actually, I waited until we turned them on to do this on the mic.
It's a great intro.
Thank you, Colin.
God damn it.
God
Hello.
damn it.
God damn it.
Colin should do one too.
God damn it, hello.
Ooh.
He's a natural.
Welcome to the show. I'm Oliver the Ricketts.
I'm Brittany Spear.
Yep.
I'm Jeremy Kessler.
I'm Colin4Torch, I guess.
Yeah, we have our first guest for the show. And actually, we're going to introduce him in a minute. And in this minute, actually, we're going to
Say that one more time. I don't think that we've got that it's going to be in a minute.
Are you okay? Did I
tired.
is it just that you have a very specific rhythm and I threw you off? Or
I
you
think
threw
that
yourself
might be
off?
it, Jeremy. I think it's your fault.
Honestly, I think I'm just having a stroke.
Okay.
So,
Don't say that.
Colin, tell me a little bit about yourself, your name, your age, what you enjoy.
All right. I'm Colin Cassidy. I'm 18 years old. I'm from Rhode Island, and I've always been interested in acting. We'll probably get into this, but yeah, I started this campaign as like just a way to get myself out there as an actor, but also for this specific role. And yeah, I'm excited to do this podcast with you guys. I haven't really done an official podcast, and I don't know, I like it. You guys are cool people, so I'm excited.
Aw.
Colin, can you
I'm sorry, Jeremy.
mention what your campaign is specifically, because we haven't said.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So Colin4Torch was an idea I had back in, I think, June of last year. And I've kind of thought about it before. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of the Marvel movies. And
Chris Evans.
What's that?
And Chris Evans, too.
Exactly, yeah. So I've been thinking about it, and I was like, what could I play in the Marvel role? It's like everybody's like dream. So I was like, what could I play in the MCU? And I got thinking, I was like, Human Torch. He's a young blonde kid, and I kind of look like him. So then I was like, I might as well just put this idea out there, kind of manifest it, and see who would actually like support my idea. And I just kind of threw it out there, not thinking much would happen. And then I would go underneath posts and just comment things that would like get a reaction out of people. So they'd come check out my page. And then I slowly, actually, it was pretty quick at first, gained a following. It slowed down more, but I feel like I'd rather have a small support system that like really supports than a huge one of kind of loosey-goosey supporters. So I feel like the people that do follow me really support what I'm doing, and I get a lot of good interaction on my page. So it's a far-fetched goal, but I think it's about kind of seeing who would support my dream and like how I'm going to get there and the steps I need to take to get there, while also making networking and connections through it. So it's been good for that.
You know, I definitely feel that. And actually, the first thing I want to congratulate you on is the absolute balls of the campaign, for sure, because you read Colin4Torch, and at first it sounds like a joke, you know?
Yeah.
And you look at the page, you see that you're actually trying to do some stuff and that you're working on the acting. And I think then it starts to come together. I found you when Avengers Endgame was coming out. And they posted one of the trailers on Instagram. And then I'm scrolling down and I see somebody write, I want to be the Human Torch, but I'm going to be the Human Torch in the next Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And then I clicked on you and I followed you. So
yeah, that's cool. That's cool to hear, because I never really hear how people actually find me. But that was the goal of it. Like, if I said I want to play the Human Torch, the reason I say I'm going to, there's like two reasons. The first reason is, like I said, kind of manifesting it, that positive like affirmation in a way. Like if I truly say it enough, maybe I'll start believing it, and maybe it goes out and it kind of works itself into existence. And the second reason was it's kind of bold and cocky, and people see that and they're like, either they're like, no, you're not, who are you? And then they go check out my page. Maybe they throw some hate comments at me or whatever. And then, or the other option is they look at it and they're like, hey, maybe this kid could play the Human Torch, and then they check out my page. But either way, if it triggers a response, they're going to want to check it out. So.
Oh, it triggered a response from him. The next time I saw Oliver, he was like, I gotta tell you about this kid, Colin. He told me all about you, and I followed
That's
you
awesome.
immediately when he told me about you as well.
That's awesome to hear. Thank you.
And I just wanted to say, like, too, like, the fact that you keep saying that you wanted to, like, manifest it. And it's, like, it's funny because from, like, a realistic standpoint, you know, obviously if they make the movie, they're going to want a Hollywood actor, somebody that's going to draw, like, you know, and I'm sure you get a lot of people that give you a lot of reasons why it's never going to happen and why, like, you know, this is something that is, like, really far-fetched.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, when you, like, talk about it, when you think about it to yourself, you say, well, it would be even more far-fetched if it's something that he wanted and he did nothing about going for it. But you're doing something, you know, to, like you say, manifest it, put it into the universe, and then maybe even start believing that it's going to possibly come true or something to that extent. And, like, I really admire that, because a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people do, like, you know, they call it wishful thinking, and they just want to say, oh, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do that, and they never really, like, take any steps towards doing it. But you're actually taking a step towards your goal, and I really admire that. So, you know, kudos, steps
I appreciate that.
for that.
And it goes back to the old exercise, you know, analogy, I guess. You're always lapping everybody on the couch.
Exactly.
You know, and the best thing is a filmmaker and is somebody who makes a lot of content. The only way you get better and you start to achieve things that you want to do is by doing them.
Right. Like, even from our end of things, we have plenty of people that when they hear we have a YouTube channel or we have a podcast, and, you know, they think like, oh, like, but you don't get that many views, or, oh, like, you don't have that many subs or whatever. And it's just like, okay, but I have more views and more subs than people that don't do it and sit here and listen and go, oh, I wish I could do it. Or, oh, that'd be cool to have a podcast. You know, you got to take a step somewhere. Everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, Chris
And you're
Pratt was
going
living in
on
his
doing
van, like, before he became an actor. So it's like, you know, things happen to the people who want them to happen. And if you're not going to do anything to do, you know, to make things happen for yourself, then you're never going to get anywhere. So again, I really admire you for going after your goal and, you know, trying to manifest it into your life as best as you can. And that's really cool. So there's my positive PSA for
I
the
appreciate it.
Sure.
And definitely props to you guys for starting as well, because I know a lot of people, like you said, will just make it wishful thinking and, oh, I wish I could have a podcast. I wish I could start a YouTube channel. And even if you're not getting a lot of views at first, you're doing it. I've always heard the story of like Mr. Beast, the YouTuber. He like was doing it for 6 or 10 years or something, and he didn't get like 1 million followers until years later, and he was just filming it on his iPhone. And like you got to start somewhere, and you got to keep working at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've technically been at this channel for about 10 years now, making content on this page. You know, and only just recently are we starting to see traction, people popping onto the videos. You know, it's nothing major, but we're starting to snowball a little bit, and more than it has in previous years.
And we get a lot of people in our personal lives, and people that we would never suspect tell us that they've watched, you know, our videos or listened to something that we've done. And that alone, like, I'm sure you get people that, you know, that say something like, oh, like, you know, I saw that you were doing this and blah, blah, blah. You know, even just like those things, the little supporters that you have and the people that you do reach really means a lot, you know, like, and you know that it's a help, like, as you said, you might have a small support group, but you know that they actually support you, and that means a lot. It's not just bots and, you know, fake pages following you. So
Exactly.
that's cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I want to continue on talking about dreams and manifestations. How far back does this go, Colin? Oh shit!
Wow, that was nice.
Lamb boy.
Jeez.
How far back does this go, though? Because did you always want to be Human Torch? Was it just that snap decision? Is he a favorite character of yours?
I think the dream of playing the Human Torch is more of a recent thing, maybe like in the past 2 years. I've always wanted to be an actor since I was like 5. I've been acting, and so the idea for Colin4Torch happened more recently, and he is one of my favorites. I'd say Cap and Spider-Man are my favorites, but Torch is up there, and he kind of just fit my look, and I thought it was kind of a wild idea for like a nobody per se, to have this dream of playing it and just putting it out there. And yeah, I kind of wanted to do something crazy, and it's I don't know, it was a pretty unique idea, I thought, and after I did it, a lot of people started popping up. I know there's another guy like JT4Nova who's been popping up, and there's some other people for Nova, and then there's a couple other characters, but I saw some of them were getting a lot more hate because they weren't doing as much as I've showed that I'm doing, and people were like, you're not as good as Colin4Torch. I was like, whoa, it's not a competition. Like, I'm just doing this. If they want to go do it too, like, they're welcome to. And I try to support them, and I try to actually like help them out as well, and like try to convince them to post more, because I don't know, just to get more positive.
For sure, it's not going to happen unless you post, and on top of that, one person benefits from 3 people doing the same thing.
Right.
You know,
Sure.
I for one would be totally down with seeing a bunch of Instagram accounts become the Marvel Universe. I'm very much into that.
I think that would be so fun.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Well, I think at this rate too, there's really been like an oversaturation of the same actors in Hollywood, like doing the same kinds of roles over and over and over again. And it's even people that we like, you know, like we love Chris Pratt, but at this point, how many movies is he going to be in where he's like
Chris Pratt,
the gruff, you know, kind of funny, you know, guy, like, you know, being Chris Pratt, like how many times is he going to be cast in the same role? So it's like interesting to see like what, like, it's an interesting idea to trail yourself into, to say, what would a movie look like if you had all these unknown people in it, but they really, really, really wanted to be these characters, you know, like you're not just doing it because you want you know, a big fat paycheck from Marvel, you know, although would be nice, but you know, but you're not just doing it because you're an actor and you want to get that Marvel money, you know, which is what a lot of people now are doing, and people have explicitly said they were doing. Who was the one that
Venom?
said that?
Who plays
Michelle
the main
Williams. Michelle Williams in Venom.
Dude, what a bummer.
Yeah, she straight up said like, oh well, I want that paycheck from being in a, you know, a superhero, you know, like a, you know, a comic book movie. And it just, you know, when you hear stuff like that, you just kind of go, really? Like, you don't have enough money? You can't like let somebody who actually wants to do the role. And I think that that's what's happening a lot now in Hollywood, is people aren't doing roles because they're passionate about them. They're doing them because they want money.
And I hate it too, because we've come so far in superhero movies. And, you know, I grew up reading comic books. I've said on this podcast before, Spider-Man is my favorite fictional character of all time. You know, I'm very well versed in all of it. And
if you know Oliver, that is the case.
We are very big fans of Spider-Man on this podcast. So when you said before he was one of your favorites, you're right at home.
I got some competition.
Yeah, you're right at home is what I was going to say.
Okay.
I was going to
also,
say
you can't have him.
These two's ears perked right up. So
yeah, no, I just finished reading the Spider-Man omnibus with by Roger Stern, and there's a couple artists in there actually.
Nice.
But I just finished that. It took me a while to read because it's a big book. But yeah.
No, I actually just fell off following. I was doing the new Amazing Spider-Man, which is like such a weird, strange take on the character for how quickly it's taken off. I am going somewhere with it.
Are you? Or are we talking about Spider-Man again?
Of course we're going to talk about Spider-Man. The kid's going to play he's a superhero.
We'd love to talk about Spider-Man.
But Fantastic Four, though.
Yeah.
Who's got a Fantastic Four question?
I mean, I guess one of my questions for you, Colin, first of all, you have a dope, like, comic book name already. Colin Cassidy is amazing. Like, and I love that. Those are, like, Oliver can attest to this. Those are two of my favorite names, and now you have them both put together.
Really?
So it's a really, really great name. I love Colin.
Thank you.
Colin for a boy's name. I love Cassidy for a girl's name, but I understand that it's a last name as well. But those are great names, and you have a comic book name already. You know, I guess my question would just be, like, aside from campaigning to be the Human Torch, like, how does wanting to be a comic book hero, like, how does that translate into your day-to-day life? You know, like, what does that do for you? Or what does that mean to you?
You mean like reaching for this role specifically, or like me as an actor, or
like more like you as an actor? Like, you know, what are you trying to what's your message? Like, what are you trying to get out there?
Okay. So I would say, well, what we kind of touched on with the actors doing it just for money, it's frustrating because I know a lot of actors my age as well. It's obviously becoming like a bigger thing with like dramas in schools and more acting schools. I feel like it's become a bigger job than it was before. I feel like a star was kind of like a movie star was a huge thing, but now it's kind of becoming like a normal job, just because there's so many TV shows out there. There's so many streaming platforms, and like we were talking about, it's frustrating to see some of those big movie stars who are just in it for the money now, and there's people with so much like drive and passion for actual acting, and like I'll do like plays or I'll do like showcases, and there's so many kids out there that have the talent and that want to actually pursue this, and it's frustrating because maybe half of those people will actually ever get the chance. So I guess my thing is just kind of like trying to maybe be a beacon of that. If I can do it, then I can show all these other people that like I was just a kid on Instagram who had his dream and now I'm going to do it, and like you can too, why not? So when I see those other people doing like the JT4 Nova kid or something else, like I support those people because go out there and do it. Why not? Give it a shot. There's no loss here. So You have nothing to lose. So I think that my thing, like you were asking, is just kind of, if I make it, if I do become an actor and I get my dreams to come true, people get to see my journey and can reflect on my journey, and maybe it'll help them if they want to do something similar.
No, for sure. And I think it's interesting what you just said. The whole thing is very interesting, is that I read this article not too long ago about what makes the modern celebrity, because back, we'll talk about the 90s. You have guys like Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, the rest of the cast of Seven.
Leonardo DiCaprio, Kevin Spacey. I'm just trying to think of people.
Kevin Spacey of Seven.
Yes, Kevin Spacey of Seven.
But big actors back then, the big appeal was that they were unapproachable. You could never have a conversation with like a Jennifer Aniston.
Right.
And since the internet came out, and since everything, all the big changes that our world has seen since then, now being a celebrity is more about being accessible.
Right.
It's less about... And
being of the people. That's like a big thing, yeah.
Which is why everybody loves Leonardo DiCaprio, because he works so closely with the environment, and he works with real people. Being
a delegate for people who have money and like what they should be doing with that, versus those who do these things for more selfish reasons, I think is like where we were going with that.
Of course. And then we even talked about a little bit earlier, we were talking before we jumped on about podcasts, I would even consider somebody like a Corey Coleman or like a Gary Vee, which I know Colin's a big fan of. We'll talk about Gary in a minute. Okay. But guys like that I think are even becoming like modern celebrities, or even Jake Paul, even though I hate him. It's more about, I can talk to this person. It's within the realm of possibility that I could reach out and have this conversation.
Well, perfect example, PewDiePie. PewDiePie has a lot of interaction with his followers. He's a #1 subscribed to on YouTube.
And he's very famous.
He's not number one. Sorry.
What?
Oh, he's not number one.
He's not number one anymore.
T-Series doesn't count.
I literally don't.
I mean, yes, T-Series is but it's number-wise, T-Series has more than PewDiePie.
That's
true.
So
I can't deny that, as much as it's upsetting.
I literally don't give a crap about that.
Remember when Ray William Johnson was number one?
I do.
He's somebody good up there.
Anyway, so the point was that these people now are becoming super accessible because of just the internet connectedness of the internet now. So, that's changing.
And if there was ever a time to do a campaign like an Instagram campaign to be in a movie, it's now, when being a celebrity is more about that than it is about being rich and famous.
Right. You hear all the time, it's your social media presence. What is your social media presence? What is your media footprint like? Who are you reaching, and how are they getting in contact with you? And now in the age of Instagram, where Instagram is, probably one of the, if not the one of the #1 apps that everybody has and everybody uses, and they use to market and to get themselves out into the world. Like, Instagram models, if these girls who are no one, literally no one, can go on and become Instagram models with 100,000 plus subscribers, for all they're doing is posting pictures of their asses, I think you probably have a little bit more talent than that and a little bit more drive than that.
That's true.
Maybe not
That's
the
true.
assets per se. I don't know. I don't want to know, but you know what I mean. So it's just interesting, like Oliver was saying, like, this is the time, if you were ever going to do it, this would be the time that you were going to do it.
And I want to talk also about what you're doing to pursue Torch, because anybody can set up the Instagram account. You do a lot of dope Photoshop on there, but anybody can even do that and learn Photoshop, but you're taking other steps to do it. And Jeremy and I have talked about that, in talking about having you on. We think that's really impressive and important for what you're trying to do. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing.
So first of all, thank you for that. It's really cool to hear like someone from an outside source talk about like my campaign and what I'm doing. But I think it started off, the first picture I ever posted was pretty horrible editing, actually. And it was just kind of, I wanted to see what I would look like on fire or something as simple as that. And I posted it up, and I had no followers at the time. And I was just like, this is what I'm going to be posting. And along the way, I'm going to talk about why I think I would be a good fit for the Torch in the MCU. And it started off mostly as physical things, like I look similar to him, and it's simply like my demographic. I'm a white teenager, like something like that. But then as I started like taking more steps in my acting career, I realized this relates to this a lot, and maybe the people that are supporting me would want to see this. So I started posting more about that, which was I started doing extra work on movies, and that was like a big step for me because the only acting I'd done before that in my life was like plays for school or like a random theater downtown or something. And so being on an actual film set gave me a couple different things. It gave me real experience with just the industry as a whole. The first one I did, which I don't know if I'm really supposed to talk about this, but it's all right. The Huey Halloween by it's Adam Sandler is the main actor.
Okay.
And that was a really cool experience because the first day I was only there on set one day, but he was just walking around, and it was like it's Adam Sandler, and this was the first thing I'd done, and I didn't realize that being an extra in a movie was like a real thing. Like I thought it was just a cool experience. I was like, oh, I get to be in this movie. That's sweet. But like they pay you and they give you a costume, and I had no clue that was a part of it, which might seem ignorant, but like I didn't know that was a part of it. And I was like, that's so sweet. I can actually do this as a thing.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a really nice career even just as an extra. We talked about John Schnepp on the last show, who became a film director later on, but he's in like Ferris Bueller, and he's in Breakfast Club, I believe, in the background. So you can actually have a career as an extra, and there are people who do it. Or Transformers 3, there's a guy in there who is actually called the world's most famous extra because he's in so many movies.
Yeah. Definitely. So doing the extra work was one big step for me. I'm actually going to visit my page just because sometimes I've like kind of forget. Working out, I mean, that's not like a big thing, but that's something I'd want to do for a while just for myself personally. But then I was like, all the Marvel like big leads have these crazy toned muscular bodies, and I was like, if I show that I'm trying to work at that, then maybe it's another one of those things that shows I'm trying to make a step, like something that is maybe not easy. So I thought that it's not like directly related to Colin4Torch, but I figured it's something I'm working at similar to the role. And a bunch of people have DM'd me, and they're like, you're inspiring me to get into the gym. And I'm like, hey, I'm turning into an influencer a bit here. But like just to give even one person the motivation to like go to the gym or work on their acting career or something, that makes me feel a little bit better, and it makes my day. So I have a cool interaction with the people that support me. So I appreciate that. But I guess the third thing is just not necessarily the extra work I do, but the like monologues I do. I posted I think one scene and then like another monologue, and that's just to show off like my acting capabilities, because I understand it's hard to get behind someone if you don't really know what they're capable of and you don't really know what you're supporting, which I think is what other pages like mine struggle with. By not posting it. So before I posted my first one, actually, a lot of people were like, how am I going to support you? I don't know if you can act or whatever. And once I posted that first one, I actually got a lot of great positive feedback, which I think I'm pretty, like, I'm not as confident as I could be with my acting. So getting that like positive affirmation was nice, and I was like, all right, this will make me want to post more. And so I started posting a little bit more, and then people are still like supporting it. And yeah, so I'd say that's the third thing. just posting the monologues and show them act.
Now, Colin, do you do things like, do you have like a reel or anything like that? Do you do stuff like sending, because I mean, like that's like how a lot of people get their name out there. Do you send your reel to casting directors or to the Marvel, address, whatever that address is?
Yeah.
Do you send your information to them? Do they like have any way of knowing who you are?
So I that's actually a question I get a lot from people that DM me, but I've not really. I've done it a couple times actually, but I tend not to take the direct route with Marvel because sometimes I feel like that would be unprofessional or of some sort. But what you're saying, I actually like that idea. Sending in a reel to the casting director of Marvel or whoever it is. But I've kind of been trying to take like the back roads per se. So like working my way up. Not with the goal of to be the Torch, but with the goal of to be an actor. And then by going that path, that will lead me to the chance to audition for the role of Torch. The time gap is kind of closing, so I feel like they're getting closer to casting the Torch. So it might be time to do some direct approaches. But
right, because
still,
you never really know what can happen, even if you just send your stuff in and maybe they don't consider you for the role of the Torch, but you then get a supporting role or like you said, like an extra. I mean, even to just be involved in a Marvel film, I'm sure is incredible.
Awesome.
So
yeah.
that would be just from my side of things, my suggestion. Maybe just start sending them your stuff. Send them some headshots, send them a reel. Get your name out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'll probably get working on that today, actually, because that's a good idea. And
Do you have headshots?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh.
Yeah, I have an announcement coming out soon, so stay tuned for that on the page. But it could be a big thing, so
awesome.
That's it. That's your little tease.
Wow.
Okay.
We got an exclusive.
I'm just gonna say that we broke it. Yeah, I mean,
excited.
I do want to jump into really quick some of the stuff with the Fantastic Four as a whole before we go back to what Colin is doing, because I figure if we're going to talk about Fantastic Four with anybody, it's going to be somebody who's trying to be in the movie.
Right.
So I'm going to start with we've had 4 Fantastic Four movies, if you include both Chris Evans ones. Then there was Fantastic, which is a terrible movie that I'll never watch again. And then there was the Richard Donner one from way, way long ago that they made fun of on Arrested Development.
I was going to say then there was the Tobias Funke version.
Yes, so there are 5, yeah. So I guess my first thing is, which one how do you feel about those films? Do you see value in what they were doing? And, would you carry anything over from there? Or do you want your take to be kind of more fresh and something different that we haven't seen?
So it's funny. I've actually only seen the first one. I've never seen Fantastic, but I have made fun of it. Definitely.
Relatable. Very relatable.
Yeah. And I've definitely not seen the older one. I did know I've seen clips from Rise of the Silver Surfer, but I've never watched that all the way through. The first one with Chris Evans, Jessica Alba, I forget who the other 2 are.
Michael Chiklis, yeah.
I forget who plays Reed Richards, but I don't like him. So
I don't know his name.
That one, I feel like it's not horrible. It's like there's parts of it that is just really bad, but like overall what they were going for at the time, it's pretty good. And I feel like I think Chris Evans played Human Torch great. And I think some of the other characters were portrayed well. I just don't think it was done perfectly. I don't really hate a lot of movies, so like it's hard for me to give like a negative review of it, because I don't know. It just wasn't that bad in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree too when you say for the time, for an early 2000s superhero movie. I agree it's very ambitious, which is of course why they got the sequel. My issue with the movie is I've loved Fantastic Four for forever, and I think my biggest problem with the movie is Reed Richards or Mr. Fantastic. That at the time there was this conception that every smart superhero had to kind of be a dork unless they were Batman. And that's really not what Reed Richards is. It's more that he's really smart. He's probably one of the smartest guys in the world, but he's also aware of it, but not in the way that Tony Stark is aware, in like a very humble, but no, I have confidence because I have this brain power. And I think they missed that. They made him such like a dweeb,
Definitely. I 100%. Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
But I'm with you on, I think Chris Evans was awesome in that movie. I think he's the saving grace of the movie is the stuff they were doing with Human Torch.
Definitely. And I feel like Marvel always, the now Marvel, the MCU, always kind of has a way of surprising me. Like, I might think a movie like Ant-Man, how can you make that movie good? But they made a fantastic movie. And so I feel like Marvel always kind of catches me off guard, even though I have them at such like a higher level. They still like never cease to amaze me. But they, so I feel like if they did make a Fantastic Four movie, just by juxtaposition, when I look at the old one and that one, I would be like, oh, how could I not see this was a terrible movie, the original one. But for now, I think with the take of Chris Evans, I kind of just see that as like the Fantastic Four. That's the first thing I think of, and I'm like, it's not an awful movie. But definitely what you said about Reed Richards, I agree with that. And there was some, I don't like Doctor Doom as well.
Yeah.
But what you were saying before about what I like a fresh new what I would want to see, I think I think I would. They did it pretty comic accurate the first time, but I think I would want to see definitely not Doctor Doom again, but something like kind of the way they did Homecoming, where it was like the Vulture, instead of like the classic Green Goblin. They took one of Spider-Man's original villains, but made him like kind of new and updated. I would like to see something like that, where it's not like Doctor Doom, where it's the classic villain, but it's like a weird one, like Molecule Man or something that they take from the original comics.
Molecule Man.
Yeah.
Oh, that it's the Batman Begins approach, where they started, instead of with the Joker, it was Ra's al Ghul.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who do you so you get cast in the movie tomorrow? Who do you foresee playing the other three parts? Because we've got our casting, and it's us. So
yeah.
Hey, it could work perfectly. We're the Fantastic Four right here.
Oh.
Yeah, originally I did a post about this a while ago. I did my casting of it, and I did it strictly based off looks. Recently, I've seen a lot of things about John Krasinski and Emily Blunt playing Reed Richards and Sue Storm, and I'm not opposed to that, just because I love John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. I think the original post I did, I had David Denman, Michael Fassbender, and Alicia, I forget her name, Vikander, I think. And I picked them just based off their looks, and I love Michael Fassbender's portrayal of Magneto.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like Reed Richards kind of has that flair to him, like he kind of has a bit of a temper, and so I would kind of love to see how he portrayed Mr. Fantastic. So I always struggle to choose between the John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, or my fan casting, just because I think they would both be a great fit. But really, I think it's hard for me to see without seeing. It's hard for me to choose without seeing the actual actors do some kind of a scene from that role or something. And the Thing is so hard to cast because I don't know. It's a very strange character, and it's hard to see who could play him perfectly. So
Just make it Vin Diesel and call it a day.
No,
Vin
no,
Diesel.
I
Oh my
hate
God.
Vin Diesel. I really don't like Vin Diesel. Please don't do that.
I've got Thing casted. I think Terry Crews would be awesome in that role. I know not a lot of people agree with me, and it sounds very far out there, but I think once you got him in the rocks, you know, I mean, I know Terry Crews would be a bit much at the beginning of the movie, but I think to actually play the Thing, he would be fantastic. But
See, I'm gonna go in the opposite direction. I'd love to see Michael Cera play the Thing.
holy shit.
So, so that's my dream casting right there.
You could not have been more opposite. Like you said it, but like I when you said opposite direction, I was like, what could you be thinking of? Yeah, no, that's the like exact opposite.
Yes, that is why I said it.
What if Michael
I'm just
Cera
saying.
played him at the beginning, and then Terry Crews took over when he became the Rock Man?
That seems problematic to me, but but I suppose I'm not the casting director.
They'd figure it out. It's Marvel. They can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess, ooh,
That's a fancy water bottle there, Colin.
Jack that from a restaurant?
That is nice.
yeah, it's one of them pouring the bottles I keep it in, but I just use it as my normal water bottle.
Nice.
I love it. Gotta stay hydrated.
Exactly.
Jeremy's a straight up water themed.
Theme?
Themed?
Yeah.
Fiend.
Fiend. Oh,
Oh,
man.
fiend.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we just totally don't know what words are anymore.
I only drink water, and I drink a lot of water.
Yeah, same. I don't like soda or anything. I just drink
Oh, it's
water all the
disgusting.
time.
You guys could be BFFs.
Yeah.
Bond over your hatred of sugary drinks.
Water bros.
Oh my god.
Hydro homies.
Please,
would
please
be
stop.
the-
Make it
This
stop.
is the first quarantine cast where I haven't drank 2 beers while doing the show.
True.
So,
Colin, I have a question, and please don't take offense to this.
No worries.
So they go ahead with casting. You don't get cast. Who would you prefer to see carry out what you would have liked to have done as the Human Torch?
There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of fan theories out there, or fan castings, I should say, about who they would want to play. And it's tough for me because a lot of them I haven't seen in other stuff.
Mhm.
So it's the ones that like fit it. It's hard for me to think. I definitely don't want Zac Efron because
That was gonna
we
be
gotta
my-
Oh my God.
disagree there.
My choice.
oh, you do want Zac Efron?
I would love. I want you to be the Human Torch, so I can't. But
yes.
Yes, disclaimer, Colin Cassidy is our #1 pick
Yeah.
officially of the podcast.
Thank you.
But I would also watch Zac Efron recite from the Yellow Pages from like 1987 because I just love him so much. So when it was getting thrown out there that he might possibly do this role, that was very exciting for me, just personally, especially since he hasn't really been doing any big movies lately.
That's true.
And he's been doing more like Quibi and like Killing Zac Efron and like stuff like that. So that's where I'm at with it.
and everybody knows Zac Efron is in one of my favorite new movies, Beach Bum,
Oh, yes.
and he is fantastic in that movie.
He's very versatile.
really
He gets typecast,
He
but he is very versatile.
And I also I like his take on Ted Bundy. I haven't seen the whole movie yet, but the guy's got range, and I think he doesn't get a fair shake.
I agree.
You know,
I agree with that. I watched the Ted Bundy thing. I think it was this summer, the past summer actually, and he was very good in that role. And like compared to the High School Musical, that's it's a huge difference. So he's definitely a great actor. But I guess the reason I said definitely I wouldn't want to see him is what you said, he gets typecast a lot. So I guess in my mind I was typecasting him as something else. But yeah, he's one of the few that I actually know. So it's hard for me to kind of put him in that character. I don't know. It depends on the rest of the cast. If they were all older and he was like younger, it could work for me. Because for me, the Torch is a younger kid, which is what I like about it. He's like a little bit older than Spider-Man, and that's why they kind of have their cool like duo per se. But yeah.
Well, that's the other thing is how old are you going to make everybody? Because one of the things about Four Stick was you had like Miles Teller was Mr. Fantastic, which I actually thought could have been very cool.
Right, like a 25-year-old guy.
Yeah, for the first movie,
Yeah.
and then he grows up. But
right,
you know, a lot of people didn't take to the idea, you know, which is interesting because Sue Storm and Johnny Storm are brother and sister, so the age gap. There can be one, but it can't be so extreme as like these people would have stopped having kids.
right.
You know?
Definitely.
There was that movie was just not good, period.
Such a mess,
and like we don't need to like go over it, but like Miles Teller should have been good in that. I feel like he's got the acting chops, like even just from Whiplash, like to be able to pull off almost, not almost any role, but a good range of roles. And I feel like it is not rocket science to be able to
play a humble guy. That's all you have to do
in this kind of role. So yeah, I don't know.
It's like they made him into just a nerd, you know, and like a guy with no confidence.
But he was like,
I hated that.
But he still had his Miles Teller like cockiness to him though. So it didn't line up.
And neither one feeds into what Reed Richards is about.
Right.
You know, and again, it's another case of the guy playing the Human Torch was the best part of the movie. You know, because Michael B. Jordan was fantastic in that. He was. It's fantastic.
Say that again.
Do you want to call the team the Fantastic Four, Jeremy?
I would love to call the team the Fantastic Four.
Because we're a team and there's 4 of us. This is all real dialogue from the end of the movie. We're not making any of it up.
Okay.
No, they never say the words Fantastic Four in the movie. That part.
They don't say it?
They don't say Fantastic Four.
Man, that movie.
I hate to just like walk you through a scene right now.
I feel like I should.
We're not going
I feel like I should watch it just for the experience.
Yeah, sure. That's probably a good idea. Colin, I'm sorry. Did we get who you wanted to play Human Torch? Aside from yourself, obviously, because Colin's our number one.
Well, I've seen. God, what's the guy's name? He played Robin Hood in.
Oh, Taron Egerton.
Ooh.
Yes.
I love him.
We also love Taron Egerton.
Yeah, we do.
I feel like I could like that. I feel like I could get on board with that.
One time we make at the end of every year we make a best of and worst of movie list. Mm-hmm. Just a fun me and Jeremy friendship story. And I had Robin Hood, the new Robin Hood, listed in my worst of. And I told Jeremy, I was reading out my list and I got to Robin and he goes, "Oh man, but it's got my main man Taron Egerton in it."
I'm sorry I didn't know how to pronounce the man's name.
I forgive you, but I'll never forget.
Colin, I do want to kind of maybe burst your bubble a little bit and let you know that Taron Egerton and Zac Efron are about the same age. So, so if you think Zac Efron might be too old, then it's possible that Taron is also too old.
Yeah, true.
I know these things because they are my age and I also feel very old.
Well, it's all about how it's not, you can portray younger than you are.
I completely agree.
Which, case in point, Tom Holland is in his 20s, but he still looks like he's 16.
16-year-old kid, yeah.
You know? Yeah. Which is another question. Who do you want to cross over with the Fantastic Four? You know, because if they're in there, it's going to happen. Who would you like to see first, or would you like them to just jump in with the Avengers like they did with Guardians?
I for sure would love to see Spider-Man and Fantastic Four crossover. Just because, I mean, I'm a big fan of Spider-Man, like I said, but also I mostly read the 60s comics, and they
do that classic cover.
Yeah, and they're meeting up all the time. I feel like Spider-Man and Human Torch had a couple like crossover stories, not even with the full Fantastic Four, but just them two. And I always loved those stories because they had a cool dynamic. But as for the whole team, I feel like I don't know. It's tough to imagine the Fantastic Four in a modern MCU, but which is exciting because it's like it's
gonna be different.
Exactly. Yeah. And especially with like the way it's played out with losing characters. I'm excited for the new MCU. It's weird. This is the first time I've been like unsure of what the future of the MCU is. But yeah. So I don't know. Definitely, eventually, the Fantastic Four and the Avengers need to meet. But I've heard theories about them coming from like a different Earth or like a different multiverse, and that could be cool too. So you might get like a couple solo Fantastic Four movies, and then they kind of meet. Because I liked how they did that with Guardians of the Galaxy. You got your own Guardians of the Galaxy, and then they meet, and then it's like two worlds colliding, which I like.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Guardians of the Galaxy, that was a big movie for us when we started dating. You know, and I think part of it is I've always loved superheroes, but you're not the biggest like I want to see a superhero movie, you know. Yeah. And that was a good movie that transitioned you kind of into seeing the other movies, and you know, and on top of that, it was a good film.
Before seeing Guardians Volume 1, I think the only superhero movie I had seen of like the MCU at that time was Captain America, you know, the first Avenger, and the first Avengers movie. And then I think Age of Ultron came out before Guardians, right? Yeah, I think I saw that, but I hated it.
It was the one after, actually.
Oh, it was after? Okay. So, yeah, so I think really before seeing Guardians Volume 1, I had only seen the first Avengers and the first Captain America movie. And it wasn't like I saw them because I really dug like superhero movies or Chris Evans at that point. Yeah, it was more just like, oh, these guys are hot, and this is the biggest movie out right now, so I'm just gonna go see it.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, bear in mind I was, you know, between 18 and like 20 something years old at that time. Like I was your age, so
yeah. Yeah, when those movies when I think the first Marvel movie I saw was it might have been Iron Man, but it would have been a couple of years later, I think. And then it was Cap 1 as well, the first Avenger. And I was in like 7th grade at the time. And so I watched the first couple out of order. The first movie I saw in theaters was Iron Man 3. And I think I was 12 because I remember it was PG-13 and I had to close my eyes at the like the extremist guy.
Yeah, oh, man.
Yeah, I remember I watched the first 20 minutes of Iron Man at a friend's house, and I absolutely hated it. So
the first Iron Man?
Yeah, so I still haven't seen it. I haven't seen any of the Iron Man movies.
Fun story with Iron Man. My dad is a New York City firefighter, and they were making they made a Stan Lee documentary a couple of years, 2008, the year that Iron Man came out. It was called True Believer, and my dad's firehouse had a Spider-Man insignia on the front. That was their logo. Because they were called the Web, because all the firehouses have different nicknames. So they were the Web, and they had Spider-Man on the front of the house. So he actually got to meet Stan Lee, and then, you know, I got to meet him, and Stan Lee actually did an autograph for me, and then he wrote me a letter, which is still one of the coolest celebrity interactions I've ever had. But in it, Iron Man was coming out, and he said, write to me and let me know what you think of the movie. And I got to send Stan Lee a letter about Iron Man. And I was, you know, 2008, we were kids.
10.
Very little. That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Was. Yeah. Man.
Okay.
Man.
Stanley, what a man! My cousin and I, we wrote comics when we were younger. Or he still does actually. I do it less so. And so we always loved Stanley. So that was tough when he passed. But that's also cool that you got to like kind of interact with him before the whole MCU blowing up, because like he had his rise in like the 60s, 70s, and then kind of had a bit of a downfall in the 90s. Yeah. And then the MCU kind of like saved them. And
have you seen Mallrats, Colin?
What?
Have you seen Mallrats?
I don't think so, no.
So that's a movie from the 90s directed by Kevin Smith, and Stan Lee is actually in that and actually has
playing
himself has a pretty extensive speaking role. I would suggest watching that movie because that's a pretty good movie.
All right.
Especially like if he's like he's one of my heroes, and that was such a cool thing.
It was a really cool interaction in the movie.
Captain Marvel, the Stan Lee Easter egg in there is a reference to Mallrats.
Yeah, he's actually reading the Mallrats script in Captain Marvel. So she's definitely giving you a little bit of homework go watch.
Yeah, I'll check it out for sure.
Now, Colin, if you say they cast Taron Egerton or or Zac Efron,
This is Efron.
and you wind up playing a different Marvel character, who would you want it to be?
All right, so I've gotten this question a lot from some other people, and I think, since I'm kind of young, I would still say like one of the X-Men maybe. So like Iceman or Cyclops or something. Those are some other ideas. I think those would probably be the top ones that I could fit now. If it's years in the future, once I'm older.
Hold on, sorry. There's somebody just ran down my street honking his horn.
They're doing those convoys like left and right now. There was a big one yesterday. Quarantine life, man. Am I right?
This must be a birthday party, yeah.
Crazy.
Gotta tell you, couldn't even hear it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Let's keep going then.
Then keep going.
I would, I guess Iceman and Cyclops, those would be my two for now, because I think that's who I kind of fit with, and
it would be so cool to see like an Iceman done really well on screen, and not.
I like the guy that in the first set of the movies, the way he did it. I don't know his name, but he's been in a bunch of stuff that I like.
I actually didn't give him any time.
He was in Lock and Key. I like that actor. What is his name? He's a twin. Keep going.
He actually was played by two people because he's a twin. So you think they've ever done that? You think like Zach and Cody ever just switched and played each other?
Maybe.
These are the hard-hitting questions.
True.
We're not twins, so we'll never really know.
I've got a couple more here.
No more.
Along a similar vein, if they do cast someone else as Human Torch, what does happen to the Colin4Torch campaign?
Yes, definitely. This is something I've thought about a lot, because it definitely is a far-fetched goal. And I've thought about this a lot. So with the support system I've gained now,
hold on, I'm sorry, Con. Did you guys hear that train horn?
Yeah,
I think it's a tractor trailer or something. I don't know what is happening right now.
Monster truck rally going on outside.
Is literally
it's
like
the apocalypse.
We live by the water. There's no room for this.
Well, we live in the second to last house off the corner. So yeah, wow, this is really loud. So it must be people just going on our side street up and down.
Wow.
Which they did yesterday too, but this is a different crowd. This seems like a little more of a tougher crowd than yesterday. Yesterday they just had balloons coming out of the car.
It's a rough bunch.
And they were playing Ariana Grande. So this seems like a little bit
so we weren't
crazy.
afraid yesterday,
No.
but now. Anyway, I'm sorry, Colin. Go
No,
ahead.
no worries at all. Okay. Okay. So I think, like I said, I was kind of taking the back road approach for my acting career. So I think if the torch is casted and I obviously don't get the part, I would continue. I would make like a video or some post saying like, all right, it's over. The torch campaign is over, but I'm still gonna like focus on my acting, and I would love your guys' support as I try to make my dreams a reality. The only difference would just be I'm not going for a specific role. I'm just trying to become make acting my full-time career, and it would be similar. I think the only thing I would be losing from the page would just be like the Photoshop of the torch and the whole like torch kind of puns I've had.
I mean, because then you could always also call for a Jake Gyllenhaal sort of thing with Spider-Man. Because between Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire was going to be out because he had a horrible back injury. And they were going to recast with Jake Gyllenhaal, who had auditioned the first time. So that you could always call for a recast. I think it's happening. Not unfortunately.
Yeah, but then he became a Spider-Man villain, so
That's right.
it did come full circle in a way.
True.
History's got a weird way of
doing stuff
that.
like that. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you lastly, working in entertainment, I think a lot of people have a wide variety of inspirations. So who are yours? I know you mentioned a lot of them on the page. Do you have a couple off the top of your head?
Specifically actors or anyone?
Anyone who inspires you to do what you do.
So I would say Chris Evans is definitely up there. Just because he's a kid from the East Coast as well. I've been kind of researching his history on his path he took to do what he's doing. So I've taken some advice in a way from him, kind of studying his life. I'm a big fan of, I think probably Captain America was the first thing I saw him in. But I love his social media presence or lack thereof in a way. And I love just his roles. And he seems like a decent guy. And so I've looked up to him as an actor as well as a person. And I feel like I can connect or relate to him in certain ways. As far as people besides actors, you've seen me posting a lot of Gary Vee. He's probably the more motivation or inspiration, because he's constantly posting stuff to work hard at what you want, achieve your dreams, stuff like that. And that's what motivates me, because when I see those posts, I'm like, all right, yeah, time to get to work, stuff like that. So he definitely, I don't relate to him as much or don't have the same goals as him, but he inspires me to do the work and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I can for sure see that. I think when you try to do something creatively, you have to pull inspiration from a lot of different things, or else you don't wind up being your own brand. A lot of my heroes don't do what I do, and a lot of them do, So I definitely think that's a great way to develop what your personality is going to be. And I think that you have a future of showing a really interesting brand and a really interesting, this is an interesting campaign in and of itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, hopefully you do become the Human Torch, and then we interviewed the Human Torch on this show.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
That was going to be my last question. Was when you get cast as the Human Torch, and also we're a famous podcast, will you come back and we can interview again? Was going to be my last question.
That's the stuff I look for. Reconnecting with old friends or reconnecting with past interactions you've had. Definitely, I love that. And I also appreciate that when you gotta manifest it. And so, yeah, 100% I would come back. Even if one of us doesn't blow up, if I don't become the Human Torch and you become a famous podcast or vice versa, definitely, I love that.
Awesome.
So you heard it here first. We will interview the entire cast of the MCU Fantastic Four.
Yes.
On this show. And I hope everybody's here for it. Jeremy, how long have we been going? Just about an hour, right?
I think so. We don't have a timer going, and I think we started about an hour ago, yeah.
This one flew by, man. Colin, you've been a really, really great guest. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm really excited to see what happens in the future. You guys have any sign-offs?
Yeah, I support you. I really hope that your hard work pays off for you in one way or another. And I appreciate what you're doing. And I think that you're an inspiration to a lot of people, going after your goals, not taking things lightly. You're being very calculated and serious about it. And I appreciate that. So good job. I'm looking forward to see what you do in the future.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, genuinely, I love what you're doing, I guess. It's when Oliver was first telling me about you, I thought it was like a meme, but I really love what you're doing and appreciate that you're really doing it. It's fantastic.
I appreciate that.
I truly wish you the best.
Thank you. I think it does come across sometimes that people think it's like a meme at first, and then they keep scrolling and they're like, oh, he's serious about this. But yeah, I appreciate that, and it's once again, it's cool to hear some outside perspectives because I don't get a lot of that.
Absolutely. So, thank you so much for coming on the show,
Yeah,
Colin.
thank you. Seriously.
We're gonna wrap it up. At the end of every show, we say "Good riddance" to you. So everybody has to say it. It's very important.
All right, do we do it at the same time?
We could try.
We can try, but we won't.
We've never done it like that before, and I don't know if it'll work, but we could try.
All right, ready? 3, 2.
Wait, we were counting down?
Well, how else am I going to do it at the same time?
Okay.
4, 3, 2, skilly do 1. Good
Good
riddance.
riddance.
Good riddance to you.
You.
Yeah, I think I got it. I think we got it.
You gotta make it as hard as
God.
possible. 4, 3, 2, skiddly do 1.
I think we nailed it.